Okay, so today we're going to be diving deep into this whole idea of efficiency, like how to cut waste and all that. And what's really interesting is that we might actually be able to learn a thing or two from, get this, the government. Specifically, we're talking about Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE for short. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, government teaching us about efficiency. Well, yeah, that's kind of the point here, right? And it basically argues that DOGE is taking some cues from the lean startup playbook, which, if you're familiar with the whole startup world, is all about rapid testing, eliminating waste, and constantly iterating. And so the article kind of makes you wonder, like, what if the government is actually getting leaner and meaner while companies are getting a little bit, bloated? So let's break this down a little bit. What exactly is DOGE all about? Well, basically, it's Musk's attempt to bring like a product mindset to government spending. It's almost like thinking of every single government program as a feature in this giant product called America. And just like a good product manager would, DOGE is asking the tough questions like, what problem does this program really solve? Is it actually delivering value to the customer, which in this case is the taxpayer? Or is it just another one of those legacy code things, that nobody really wants to touch? And the article really highlights how DOGE is taking a hard look at these different programs, right? And they're shutting down the ones that aren't really working and redirecting resources to areas that actually benefit people. And, this is a pretty big shift in thinking, and it's definitely causing some waves in Washington. Now, this emphasis on results, right, it also ties into another really important aspect of DOGE, and that is their focus on the customer, which again, in this case, is a taxpayer. So they're always evaluating whether these programs are actually, serving the needs of the people, or if they're just, kind of catering to these special interests. It's almost like, think about those agile development teams that are always gathering user feedback to make sure they're building the right product.
Right.
Except in this case, that feedback loop is making sure the government is, delivering on its promises to the people. Mm-hmm. But here's where things start to get a little bit tricky. The article, it highlights this thing called the illusion of progress. And I'm sure you've experienced this before, right? Like, while DOGE is all about driving real measurable results, the article argues that a lot of corporate leaders today seem more concerned with the optics than the substance. Like, they care about how things look, not necessarily whether they actually work. So you invest in these flashy initiatives and they rebrand their products instead of actually making them better. They announce these big sweeping transformations that really just amount to internal PowerPoint presentations. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's creating this illusion of progress when really, the core business is just kind of staying the same. And, it's not just big corporations, right? We've all probably seen this illusion of progress thing in our own jobs too.
Yeah.
Think about all those meetings that could have just been an email, or those projects that just seem to drag on and on forever. And you're like, what are we even doing here? No real results. It's so easy to just get lost in the weeds, and forget what we're really supposed to be focused on. But here's the really interesting part, and this is what really got me thinking about this whole thing. The article actually argues that private companies are, they're starting to look a lot like those big bloated government bureaucracies that we always hear about. It's kind of wild, right? We're talking about those endless meetings that don't go anywhere, failing departments that just get propped up instead of actually getting fixed, and then all this lavish spending on perks and stuff while the actual product, the thing they're supposed to be making, just kind of suffers. It's almost like we're seeing the roles reversed, the government is actually embracing the lean startup stuff while companies are becoming, more bureaucratic. I mean, the Department of Government Efficiency, they're literally trying to refactor the government. It's a clunky old piece of software, getting rid of all that code that nobody needs anymore. There's this one quote from Elon Musk in the article that really stuck with me. He's talking about the importance of caring and competency, which I thought was really interesting. It's about caring enough about the taxpayer, the citizen, right?
Yeah.
To actually make sure that the government is working for them. And then also having the competency, the skills, to actually get it done. And this whole idea of caring and competency, it just really got me thinking, because it's not just about government, right? It applies to everything. Leading a team, running a company, even just your own life, It's about having good intentions, but also being able to actually follow through and make it happen. You can't just talk about it. You got to walk the walk. And that kind of leads into I guess you could say, the main point of the article, which is that simplicity scales. It's a pretty powerful idea, right? whether you're running a government program or building a new app or whatever. If you can minimize the waste, and just focus on what's really important, you can grow a lot faster. It's all about cutting through the noise and just like getting back to basics, solve the problem, do it efficiently. Now, streamlining things is, obviously important, but some people argue that if you cut too much, you end up hurting essential services, So it's kind of a balancing act. How do we make things more efficient without actually sacrificing important government functions? And then how can we take that same idea and apply it to like our own work, our own lives? So what are the takeaways here? What can we learn from DOGE and this simplicity scales thing?
Well, I think the most important thing is that we all need to take a step back sometimes, look at what we're doing and ask ourselves, are we actually focusing on the things that matter? Or are we just getting caught up in all the busy work and the bureaucracy? Are we really giving our customers what they want?
Or are we just creating this illusion of progress? And, these are questions we should be asking ourselves all the time, whether it's at work or just in our own lives. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how busy you are. It's about the results you get. So where does this leave us? What does all this mean for you and me? I mean, think about it. Even the government, they're known for being slow and bureaucratic and all that. But even they're starting to embrace these lean startup ideas. And meanwhile, some companies are losing sight of those values. Kind of makes you think, right? And you know what? One of the biggest takeaways for me from all this is, it's the power of simplicity. We tend to overcomplicate things, don't we? Way more than we need to. Think about it. How many meetings have you been in that could have just been an email? Or those projects, where the plan is 1,000,000 steps long when you could have just done it in 10. Cutting through all that, the noise, focusing on what really matters, streamlining things. I mean, that can make a huge difference. And the other thing is, you got to remember the customer, right? That's key. I mean, in this day and age, if you're not focused on giving your customers what they want, someone else will. So ask yourself, who are your customers? And how can you do a better job of meeting their needs? Maybe it's time to get some feedback, or streamline some processes, or maybe even rethink that whole product roadmap you've been working on. And here's the thing. Don't be afraid to, shake things up a little bit. Challenge the status quo. The world's changing so fast these days. What worked yesterday, it might not work tomorrow. So you got to be willing to try new things, experiment a bit, iterate, be open to new ways of thinking. I mean, think about it. If the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, if they can change the way the government works, imagine what we can do, in our own work, our own lives, if we really take these principles to heart, Efficiency, customer focus, constantly iterating and improving. So next time you're stuck in one of those pointless meetings, or you're just drowning in bureaucracy, remember DOGE. Remember that simplicity, it scales. And remember that the customer, they always come first. And remember that even the biggest, most stuck in their ways institutions, they can change. Until next time, keep diving deep.